Okay, I'm good to go whenever.
Okay, so okay, Cliff. Thanks for coming on the show. Do you want to give an introduction to yourself, who you are, and your channel, and promote anything you want?
Absolutely. Well, I go by Klef. My channel is Game Tech Talk. People always tell me it sounds like Game Tech Talk. No, it's Game Tech Talk. And I talk about hardware specifically for video games, controllers, PC handhelds. There's a lot more other devices I could talk to, but right now it's focused on this retro handhelds. I'm trying to get back more and more into it. So yes, gaming hardware is what I am passionate about and what I talk about on my channel, review hardware mainly. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so I suppose just for anyone watching, this is my first channel, my first video in a series of videos, hopefully, and this is how I came across you. I was looking for a controller there for the Black Friday sales. I have a PC. I do laptop gaming laptop. So I started getting into that form of gaming. I was playing Cyberpunk 2077, but I was playing it off a keyboard, which is fine until you have to start driving the cars around and stuff like that. And I was like, I got to get a joypad. And that was the first joypad I was looking for with PC. I was always console gamer before that. I had all the PlayStations, and just didn't even know where to start. There's 150 controllers out there. If there's good features on one, someone's complaining about it, saying there are bad features on it. All the information is all conflicting, and that's how I found your channel. And I just found the information was very clear, very concise. You came off as being a very genuine person, and I watched I'd say about 20 reviews of controllers with you, and then here's the promotion, here's the plug.
Oh, you got the
The
tarantula.
Game Sir
There you go.
Tarantula. Yeah, there you
You got
go.
the tarantula.
Yeah, yeah, and
And you've been enjoying it?
it's been good. I haven't had much time to actually play on it, but it's a really good controller. I mean, look, this isn't a paid promotion or anything. This is genuinely what happens. But
That's awesome.
that's I mean, that's how I came across you. And then I'd had the idea to do this. I thought no one's like, there is some people, but not many people are interviewing YouTubers, or they will only be interviewing it within their own field. So whatever it is, gaming or politics or whatever. Whereas that's not my intention. My intention is to like interview all YouTubers, as many as want to. Like, I don't watch television. I watch YouTube, and then I come across someone like yourself, and I'm like, I really like to talk to them just to see it. And then I kind of thought, well, like, you obviously have a fan base, so I'm sure your fans would like to hear you talk normally rather than, just talking about a controller all the time. They might want to
Absolutely.
know a bit more about you or whatever. So, I mean, I
I hear
reached
you.
out to you, and you said yes, like, so thanks for that.
Of course, thank you. And you know what? I like what you seek to achieve. I think it's a different layer and an interesting one when you get to hear someone that makes a video talk about, a day-to-day kind of rhythmic and just approach to a conversation. So yes, absolutely. I think it's a great thing that you're trying to do, and I'm happy to be here and be it your first or 100th video. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just excited to have a conversation with another human being because I love gaming hardware. I do, but I also love humans. For me, this is a very important aspect to YouTube. Like you said, I don't watch TV anymore. I only watch YouTube. I dabble a little bit on the other social media, but for the most part, I'm like 99% YouTube, 1% everything else. And yeah, I love the human aspect of YouTube, be it in the comment section, being the fact that I'm watching someone most times that, is not a big company dumping billions of dollars into their programming. Not to say that some YouTubers have pretty high, quality production and costs associated to it. But for the most part, I like to watch normal people, normal people doing great things.
Yeah, well, I think that's how I kind of gravitated towards you, because you just came off as being genuine. There was nothing over the top about it or kind of fake. And I was like, this guy is just a genuine person and he's doing it for genuine reasons. And I thought, like, well, with the interview and that, we might get into some of that and ask you, like, so, like, when did you start up your channel?
Okay, so the YouTube journey for me is fairly long one. I started my channel a while back. Like, I want to say probably a little over 10 years. Because I was always into YouTube. I was always into making videos. And for the very first iteration of my channel was called Mr. 3D Review, and no one would know about that. I wanted to review 3D monitors and 3D TVs, and I rapidly understood that it was impossible. So I think at the time I made maybe one or two videos that are now, I think they're even deleted from my channel. But I kept watching YouTube. I kept thinking it was fun. I wasn't familiar with like how to do all these things back then. And eventually I got a PS4. And with the PS4, you have the ability to do YouTube. So I did a couple of video where I don't talk. I'm just playing, what's it? The game where you have superpowers. Something First Light. It was a DLC, a standalone DLC of a game. Second Son. Second Son First Light. Loved that game. Anyways, I made videos and then I started doing a couple more. Eventually, I changed Mr. 3D Review to Klef Gaming. I did, I want to say, maybe about 50 videos. From there, I jumped from like 50 subscriber to 2,000 something. And then I stopped because I was really focused into my career, working super duper hard, like trying to, go up the ranks. But the channel and the iteration that you know it as started as Aqua Klef. That was a little after my mom's passing. And that was almost 3 years ago. I'm sorry, to the day. But I did a couple of videos, took a 6-month hiatus, and then I came back. And that was Game Tech Talk. And that has been going for almost 2 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why did you decide on? It's mainly controllers. The videos I've seen of you have mainly been controllers. Like, how come you kind of veered towards that?
So funny enough, I've always been more of a keyboard and mouse gamer. Probably not a whole lot of people know that. I don't really talk about that. But for the longest time, I was playing mostly FPSs. And I was mostly on PC, although I had the consoles because I want to have everything. I kind of have an issue with that. So I was mainly a keyboard and mouse player. But whenever I would play other types of games like Souls-like, or I would play on a console, of course I would play on a controller. And I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago, when we started seeing like companies like 8-Bit Do bring out controllers to the market, I really built an interest into having third-party solutions. And lo and behold, third-party solutions came to a point where they were surpassing first-party solutions. And, we talked about our age, I'm not about to mention, but we talked about our age. So we both grew up in a time where you had like third-party controllers like Nico, like Mad Catz, Hyperkin, and they were, I don't know for you, but they were terrible.
Yeah, I remember.
In my opinion, they weren't good. Like you would hold them and it felt cheap. So the goal was always to talk about gaming hardware, but controllers sort of became this thing that I can lean on because there's a lot of options. It can be confusing. They all seem like they all do the same thing, but in reality, they don't. And it was also, for me, the controllers kind of became an easy learning tool, because YouTube, there's a lot of repetition in some capacity. So how do you fine tune your craft? That helped me a great deal. So that's why I gravitated towards controllers, and I'm still doing them. And I don't think that's going to change at this point, because I know this has been something very positive for viewers of my channel. I don't want to only talk about controllers, but I don't think controllers is going anywhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, do you think you'd have to branch out at some point? Because obviously when I got the controller that I needed, I didn't look at many more videos for controllers because then I had one. Do you know what I mean? So would you think it's...
Absolutely.
I find with YouTubers, when I'm watching them, they find a great niche, but then after, say, 2 years or whatever, you can't just keep talking about the same subject because how much can you possibly have to say about it? Now, obviously, different things come out. There's development with controllers all the time, but do you think you will branch out into different areas or anything like that?
I have, but it's... So I still, even though for some people may look at my channel and see, oh wow, this guy has great production. This guy knows what he's doing. I don't think I do. The reality is I don't think I do. So I still am very much learning how to be a better YouTuber, how to better communicate, how to better edit. Because right now, at this point in time, I still do everything. At some point, I would love to try to outsource. I wanted to do it. I couldn't. Anyways, that's another subject. But my point is, I have started to branch out. I am doing XR. I forgot to mention, I'm doing XR and AR glasses review. The Nintendo Switch 2. So, like, cell phones, consoles, laptops, VR headsets are all things I'd like to review as well. But if I'm being perfectly honest, I find the task to be daunting. And I get into a part where I'm like, oh, how do I do this? How do I tackle this kind of review? Because I want to, it's hard to find a balance between bringing something forward where you're like, okay, that's what I have to give, versus giving something I'm like, okay, this is going to be insightful. This is going to be useful to people. And I often I have to fight myself because I feel like, oh, I don't have enough valuable things to say about these types of devices. So I kind of get into this mode of, okay, well, I need to learn how to get better to talk about this type of thing.
No,
So
I think you're being way too hard on yourself there. Your presentation skills have been fantastic. Like, because I know this, it's much easier to do this talking to someone, doing like just having a chat or interview, whatever you want to call it. That talking into the camera on your own is incredibly difficult because I've tried it before. So I think you're beating yourself up there for no reason at all. Like, you're well able to just keep talking and it just sounds totally natural. Like, I know how hard that is to do. It's very hard. Like.
well, thank you. And, that's something I'm not scared of. And it kind of goes with my previous career that lasted 15 years. I was doing product knowledge videos and training videos for the entire company that was Canada wide. So I got to own that skill. And from the first time that I've done it, and even then I was doing it a little bit on YouTube, but from the first time that I've done it, I realized that's one thing I don't have. Like, talking to a camera for me is easy, even though I know no one sees me, and like that there's no challenge for me in that. The problem is not so much talking to the camera. The problem is all the research, the data that goes, because you watch a video and you think, oh, he picks it up, he plays with it, and then he just talks about it. And there's a lot more that goes into it, So that's where, like, when you're thinking of, say, reviewing a cell phone, the amount of research, the amount of tests, when you haven't done that before, that goes into it is so much. Like, okay, I need to test temperatures, I need to test performance, I need to test the screen, the camera, the audio, the microphone. There's a lot that goes into this. And that's why branching out, I'm doing it, but I do wish I was doing it at a higher level. But yes, I have to battle my demons. The one thing, what was I going to say with that? The one thing that I feel, yeah, no, I completely lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. But yes, all that. Oh yeah, I remember. The one thing is, would I do another channel? Right? Would I, if I tackle, like, for example, there's many times that I think Game Tech Talk, should I change it to Klef's Tech Trove? That's a name that I had in my mind. Just because I like gaming tech, and I don't see myself stop talking about gaming tech, but I could branch out. I could talk about a router. I could talk about a monitor. I could talk about a lot of things. But I want to stay true to what the channel means. So maybe I would make another channel. I haven't decided. I keep thinking about things, but acting on it is a different thing.
Yeah, another channel might be the way to go, though, isn't it? You can split it up then that way. You're not losing one to do the other. You can kind of like split it up in that. And with the products, then, like, where are you buying them out of your own money, or did they give you freeware, or how does that work then?
Depends. Some I buy, like, I'm still a passionate, right? And I still am very much talking about things that I love talking about, right? So there are things that, yes, companies do send me, a lot actually, which I'm very grateful for. It helps a great deal. And I guess I've amassed that reputation, at least for some companies facing side of things, where they feel like there's value in sending product to this guy. like other YouTubers that are probably way bigger that you know of. It's a similar system. I don't get paid. I get sent free stuff and I review the stuff. They don't get to say what I want to say. They don't get to say, oh, well, change that because we don't like that. It's my content, it's my word, but they supply products. However, there are still products I buy. Now, funny, it's a great question. I do run into some type of conflict now is I buy something that I want to review, but I have so many things that are sent my way that to me, like if I give my word, it's important. Just like we are talking about, like it's very important for me that I respect what expectations are of me. So I will push aside the things that I buy because I'm like, oh no, I have to do what they sent because to me, the fact that they send something, even though it doesn't impact my opinions, it does create an expectation. And the expectation is clear on my end, it's clear on theirs. It's I have to make a video. So this is a priority for me.
So like when I seen all these reviews you were doing before I ever talked to you or sent you a message on YouTube or anything, I just kind of imagine like how many controllers does this guy have in his house? Does he just have mountains of controllers? Like,
I mean, it's getting to that point. I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's becoming a problem. So I don't know when's the last time you saw a video, but in the wall behind me, I have 2 tablets, and on each tablet, I have 9 controllers on stands. And I was like, I gotta put more. My wife was like, no, this is like, you're gonna break the wall. And then I have 3 huge boxes filled to the brim with controllers, and they're all filled. So now I'm kind of putting them anywhere, and it's becoming a problem. I don't know how I'm gonna fix this, but it's rapidly becoming a problem.
Raffle off on your channel or something. You should have a promotion. Do something with it.
So I don't know if to me there's like a conflict of interest, right? Because I'm trying to think. I am very much pro-consumer. For me, the consumer is, and I'm a consumer myself, and I used to work at a high level in a corporation, so I feel like I've got to experience both sides. So in the end, I'm pro-consumer. But there are certain things that I feel are important to upkeep and honor as a brand. So logically speaking, if a brand sends me a product and they want me to talk about it, their goal is to make sales. Now, I say what I want to say. Is that going to make you sales? Is that not going to make you sales? That is not my problem. However, if I take the product that they gave me and I sell it, or if I give it away, technically speaking, and I know it's just one controller, it's just one XR, it's just one portable monitor. But if I'm doing that, I'm hurting the very reason why they reached out to me in the first place. Does that make sense?
In terms of selling it, it would. Maybe giving it away, not so much. I suppose they'd lose potentially one sale. I get what you're saying. I'm definitely not arguing with you, but yeah, no. It's kind of, yeah.
But the way that I look at it is, and you do have a point where you can think, well, the person would have bought it anyways. They just want to give away. Yes, but if they had, then I'm hurting that business. So usually when I do giveaways, I actually reached out to a company recently. They reached out to me, but I reached back asking. Usually when I do a giveaway, it's because either I got sent something for review and I bought one, which does happen because I wanted it and then they reached out. So usually when that happens, I will do a giveaway of the one I bought because I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need to have to. What will also happen at times is whenever companies reach out, I will ask, would you be interested in doing a giveaway? And if the company says yes, well then I will give away one. Now, there was a situation, funny enough. I bought this, which is to put on your iPhone to have like a portable game controller. And originally I bought one for the iPhone 15 Pro Max and I bought one for the iPhone 16 Pro Max because I thought I was going to get it, but I didn't. So I sent an email, can you refund the 16 Pro Max? They said, yes, no problem. They refunded me. But when they shipped the order that I received 2 days ago, I received both.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to give away the 16 Pro Max because I can't use it. That's an example. So what I might, and it's funny you ask, and and that's why to me it's a great question, because I've been thinking a whole lot about it. I think what I'm going to start doing going forward is whenever I speak with these companies, I will let them know, because everything we just talked about a second ago, that's the way I see things. It doesn't mean that it has to be that way, and I'm sure a lot of people do it differently, and I don't judge them. I don't blame them. That's just the way that I approach things. But if to me it is properly disclosed, if I have a conversation with a company where I say, by the way, if you send me a product, once I'm done with it, I might give it away, and the company agrees, and that's a different thing, because we had an understanding. Without that, I don't feel comfortable just giving away the stuff that people give.
Yeah,
the
no,
companies give me.
it's totally understandable. I'm on your wife's side though. Get rid of the controllers, okay?
Oh my!
Just put them all in a box.
Yep,
down to the charity shop.
I have to find a solution, and that's why, like, the conflict I've been having recently is, okay, do I just drop my moral code? Because it's just my moral code. Is it really the good thing? Because I'm not exaggerating, it is becoming a problem, and I'm starting to feel choked up with hardware, because no matter where I look and I try to film it, I'm like, okay, what angle can I use? I need to clean this. There's always something laying around that I'm like, ugh, you're in the way. And then I move it and I just have a pile that is big. I have piles everywhere. Believe me, you're just seeing the beauty shot here. The rest of the room is hectic.
So anyway, I feel like I'm drilling you over this when it was only a minor question, to be honest with you.
No.
It's interesting to know. So what I was wondering as well was, all these different controller brands. Do you think the market could be saturated now at this stage? Because I mean, I had to pick a controller. I had to dedicate nearly 2 full days to picking a controller, of constantly scrolling, looking at reviews, everything. I was like, there's just hundreds of controllers from a fella who came from playing the PlayStation with the controller that comes in the box with it. You know what I mean? Do you think there's maybe is the market big enough to absorb so many different brands promoting so many different controllers? When a lot of people just use the standard. So like when I was looking for a controller, it just kept coming back to people were saying, oh, just buy the Xbox controller and play it on the PC. And to me, it just looked like a crappy controller unless you were going to pay for the real premium one. It had issues in it. Like, I don't want to put AA batteries in a controller, and it had another issue as well. I can't even remember. This is going back to last November, but I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, and they were charging a fortune for it.
Yeah. Do I think the market is saturated? I mean, yes, in a way, because there are indeed a lot of options, a lot of brands. And it's funny that third parties, not every third party, but a lot of third parties are making better controllers than the first party, like Xbox, Nintendo, and Sony. Sony's controller is pretty up there, mind you. And it's been out for 7-8 years at this point. So they've done a really good job. But anyways, that's not the point. Is it saturated? I want to say yes. But then, and of course, I don't know how much sales most of these companies are making. But at the end of the day, I think what makes this market feel saturated is not so much that there are too many controllers. It is that there are too many drop shippers. And, take, for example, a company that I reviewed their controller recently, a couple of months ago, and I'm actually expecting controllers from them any day now that should arrive. It's called Aeolion. It's a company from China. I met, I believe, the owner at CES. Great guy. Like, there was a barren language, but he was really awesome and genuinely excited to meet, enthusiasts about controllers. And they make controllers, but they're not really front-facing for the consumers. They mostly are OEM, which means that they make a controller and then you could buy it, patch your name, patch your colors, and sell it.
Right. Okay.
I could buy it, patch my name, patch my color, and sell it. And then it feels like there are 2 brands on the market, really, and 3 brands even, because they still sell to customers Aeolion. But then really there's just one controller presented from 3 different brands. And that happens a lot. It happens in a lot of different fields, but it happens a lot in controllers. So that creates the impression that there is way more in the market because you think, oh, well, I have to look a review of that controller. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, this controller too. And it turns out it's the same. So it creates a challenging space to navigate for consumers. And I try to educate about that. Whenever I realize that it's a controller on multiple brands, I talk about it. I think it's important. But the other thing is, when it comes to controllers, there are so many ways to stand out. You could be having different sticks, different tension, different caps, different buttons, different feel, different ergonomics, different features, different modes. And we just talked about the controller, different dock, different pulling rate, different latency, different price point. So when you think of all that into the mix, and there's probably a whole different D-pads, there are ways that companies can still stand out and offer something to a consumer that's like, man, this is the controller I've been waiting for so long. And then you still have innovations. For example, the Tarantula, which to this day is the only controller to have the mechanism to change the buttons.
Yeah.
You know, that's a cool feature to stand out. And they're not trying to break the bank. They're not trying to have you break the bank to have access to that unique feature. 9 extra buttons. Who else does that, you know? So, no, I don't think it's fully saturated in the way that innovation can't still happen. It's still very much happening. But as far as just the sheer amount of options, it can get so confusing and so overwhelming for a consumer. So yeah, I guess my videos can be helpful to some people. But like you said earlier, that could also mean once they find what they want that we may not break bread again. And this is something I do have to think about.
Yeah, yeah. No, I found it very confusing now. Like I've only done console gaming up until last year. So I mean, I just the PC gaming, like it's we were talking about this just before we started the recording. Like we might even get into that now. So like if you think, look, we said we're similar age of what we are, but like I mean, I grew up playing Sonic the Hedgehog. The guys in the schoolyard had Nintendo Game Boys. I had a Game Boy and that, and then I mean the PlayStation 1 came out and that kind of was PlayStations from then on. Like so, but I'm finding over the years the games are becoming more and more complicated. The in-game controls of what you can do is more complicated, and then the actual controllers, the amount of buttons on the controllers, and then the buttons have multiple functions. If you don't keep up with it and game regularly, say if you take your eye off it for a couple of years and come back, I'm starting to find it daunting now, to be honest with you, like with what's out there. Amazing game, like amazing games and amazing experiences, but it's getting more, if you don't keep up with it, you just kind of get left behind.
Yeah, I think the way to think about these things, because you are right, you know, things are moving in a direction, things are changing, and we're having more buttons than ever, and more features, more functions on a controller. But I do think that you want to think of it as a recipe. You know, sometimes it's going to be a meatball spaghetti, and it's going to be fairly simple: tomato sauce, pasta, and meatballs, and boom, you got a dish, right? But sometimes it's going to be that very complex pastry that you're trying to make because you're playing that game that requires this amount of buttons. And when you stumble onto that game, well, that's when you want to use the tool that you have to bring it to a degree that you're able to achieve more without having to remember all these different shortcuts because you have multiple buttons. Take, for example, Monster Hunter Wilds. I play Dual Blade. I don't know if you play that game. I don't know if you're familiar with that game, but I play Dual Blades. That's what I mean in terms of weapon. And probably not the only weapon. I'm sure other weapons uses that as well. But that specific weapon has it is B and Y shortcut that you use a lot. So rather than pushing B and Y at the same time, I have just mapped a button to my controller. And to me, after playing with it for, say, an hour or two, it kind of locked in my brain. That button is that function. I no longer think of it as doing B and Y. I just think of that button being that function. And so the beauty with gaming is you play a different game, it's a fresh wipe. You start with, yes, it's the same controller, but you start with this new set of features and function and buttons. And yes, games do look more alike now more than ever in terms of inputs, but not all of them do. And you're gonna play, say, for example, Mario Bros. You don't need 9 buttons. You need run and you need jump. That's all you need for the most part, right? So I try to not let these things be too daunting because I know it's a per game basis. And if I play a game that does require a lot, it's most likely a game that will also require more time. So I don't mind spending, say, an hour or two to set up my buttons as I play the game. And then from there, I'm set and I can just learn with my new setup that is optimized for the way that I play, which is, yeah, something I like to do.
Yeah, I think there's two things. So there's the controller, definitely what you were just talking about there. But I think the thing that trips me up is the in-game instructions for games and mini games with inside them and different controls with inside the game. So I mean, the one that always stood out for me was I got Red Dead Redemption 2 for the PlayStation 4. And as you're progressing through the game, there's just more and more stuff that you need to learn as you go through the game. And I was like, this is just getting more and more complicated now. Or maybe at the time I wasn't in the mood for gaming or something over that period, but I just got fed up with it in the end. I turned it off. And the next game I played after that then was the remake of Resident Evil 2. And I just absolutely loved it. Like, didn't even look at instructions. You just turned it on. X was the action button, one button was aim, you could press triangle, open the inventory, and you could totally interact with the world perfectly, like, so. And to me, that was probably my favorite game on the PlayStation 4, was the remake of Resident Evil 2. I really enjoyed it now, but I'd be a fan of the series, like the first game I played properly on the gaming laptop was Starfield. And
Yes.
yeah, like 20 hours. I mean, I got 20 hours into that and I was still learning more and more instructions. Now you need to learn this, you need to learn how to build your shit. I was like, look, I already have a job. Like, I'm coming here to relax. You know what I mean? I don't need more instructions on how to do things. And I mean, in fairness, like, look, I love Bethesda and Fallout and everything's one of my favorite games, like Fallout 3 especially, Fallout New Vegas, but Starfield it's not a very exciting game to play, so the payoff,
It wasn't for me.
For me the payoff just wasn't there for the amount of time I was having to put in to learn how to play this game. So that's just kind of my experience with gaming.
And I see where you're coming from. And to be fair, there are still those games that I just prefer to tackle on a keyboard and a mouse. And to me, Starfield was very much that type of game because, not to your point, not every game do as great a job to help you navigate UIs and navigate features and functions and just how do you tackle like a gunfight, these types of things. And Starfield was definitely one of those games where, honestly, within a week of the game releasing, I was downloading mods to improve the UI because it was terrible. It was terrible. And even then, it made the experience that much more pleasant, but I was still struggling to go through. But yes, I mean, the other thing is there, and I guess it kind of, the challenging part is you buy a game. I mean, I guess Game Pass, but you still pay for Game Pass. You either buy a game or you pay for a service expecting something and then you don't get it. And that to me is the frustrating part, because at the end of the day, if you run into a game like, say, Starfield, where you're just not getting your money's worth, there are so many other options out there that probably will. But you still spend that 90 Canadian dollars to play that game, and you're not getting it back. So it kind of sucks to find that out after spending that kind of amount. So yeah, anyways.
Well, I caught a break with
thoughts.
Starfield because when I bought the laptop then, and it came with a free Game Pass.
Nice.
So I managed to play it because I probably would have bought it just on the strength of some of the other Bethesda games that I've really enjoyed over the years, and it looked good. You know what I mean? You see the trailers for it and everything; it looked fantastic.
Yep.
Fallout in space, kind of. They were, you know what I mean, kind of promoting that. It did look very good, but God, I once I played the trial period of it, I'll never play it again. Like, unless they fixed it, maybe now, I don't know. But it's just, there's a lot of space in that game with just nothing in it. Like,
yeah, and it felt like a big sandbox of a whole lot of either nothing or what is there you feel like you've seen into 5 hours of gameplay, and the rest is just repetition. Change the code of paint. but it's the same thing. It's the same fights, the same building. At least that's how it was. But I, when it released, I would have a debate with my brother every day because my brother he loved it, and I was like, this is not a good game. So and he's been he's been telling me about it from time to time, and apparently they've improved it. I don't know that I will ever go back. My brother's like, you should. It's even better now. Maybe one day. Apparently they added like the big vehicle that you can drive around. I don't.
I saw a review. I have no idea who did it. I was just, look, I would be watching YouTube for hours every day. And this guy reckoned, he said there's a formula for those games, and it has to be, there can't be something more than 2 minutes go by without something happening. And he started getting into like Skyrim and Fallout and things like that, and saying like this, there has to just be something happening in it. That's the game. And he said they broke away from that formula, and that's why it's not working. And he was talking, now he was describing a lot better than I'm describing it now, but he, as soon as he said it, I kind of agreed with him. I was like, yeah, he's talking sense now, this fella. It's fine to have an open world, and they're the kind of games I like, to be honest with you, but there has to be something going on within the worlds, like.
Yep, absolutely. It's like, okay, you want to give me a bigger canvas, perfect, but make sure you have the paint strokes and the dash of colors and the depth to give me an experience when I look at what you're presenting. And Starfield, at least vanilla, just wasn't it. But I'm sure Bethesda, that's something that I feel they have done. They have a history of improving over time. I'm not. I think Bethesda from Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind was such a great game. I don't think that Bethesda still exists today, but I am hoping that they keep on improving it. And who knows, maybe in 2, 3 years from now, I'll be bored and I'll be like, oh, you know what? Let me try Starfield again. And then I will, or I won't. I don't know. There's so many games.
So say we're into gaming now. So do you want to talk a little bit about the gaming you grew up with, or any good memories you have from that, or
Of
classic
course.
games, or anything?
Oh yeah, for sure. So growing up, I I grew up with Nintendo. Like good old NES. Um, that I'm very fond of. But I would replay the games over and over again because, of course, we didn't have a whole lot, and it wasn't the world that kids grow up in today. It was a very different time back then. So I remember it's gonna sound super weird. I remember taking like, say, I'm brooming the room and taking a little bit of dust from brooming the room and putting it in my cartridge because when you would do that with Nintendo games, it would mess up the pixels. So I would play Mario, and the clouds would be minuses and pluses, and the Goombas would be not Goombas. They would look like a completely different pixel. So I remember doing that, but yeah, I definitely grew up on the Nintendo as a kid, watching the Sega ads. Felt like I don't want a Nintendo, I want a Sega. I want something cool like Sonic the Hedgehog and Echo the Dolphin, and eventually, I did get a Sega Genesis, so that was a fun time to be able to experience another side of things, and the games felt different, the audio was different, and that kind of opened up my world very early on to this is this is a blank canvas, and they make a game that can feel completely different, has a different approach, different everything really. So I just stayed hooked. I stayed hooked. Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega, eventually PlayStation 1. I never properly owned a Nintendo 64. Then there was PS2, which I bought much later. Xbox One, GameCube. GameCube was for the longest time one of my favorite consoles. I mean, SNES is hard to beat. But yeah, the flip to 3D was very interesting, and there were so many things that were different, and to this day that we don't see anymore because companies were just trying to learn. Oh, how do you control a camera? How do you do this? How do you do that? And I remember watching an interview of a company, and the lead developer was working on the introduction of 3D, and he was talking about VR, and he was making those juxtapositions of you just like it's a new frontier to explore. So eventually I got into VR. I had a huge VR phase. Unfortunately, I feel like experience. Have you ever played VR?
Yeah, I'll get into it in a minute. Do you talk a little bit about that? I was actually going to talk about VR in a second anyway. So just what
Oh,
VR
sure.
setup did you first get into then?
Wait, I'm sorry, I missed that question.
So what
What was
what
it?
was your first? You said what was your first VR setup then that you got into?
My first VR was the very first. So I had the opportunity to try, I believe, the DK1 from Oculus before it was fully released. But my first proper, that I want to say my proper VR experience where I really like got into it hard was the very first Oculus headset. The one, and it wasn't even sold with controllers back then. It was just the VR headset, and it was paired with an Xbox controller. And I would work at the time in my previous career, and some of those work days from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I remember coming back from work, and like my wife would be sleeping at that point in time, jump straight on my PC, connect my Oculus, and just get immersed in these worlds.
What were you
And I would
playing?
play for like so many, like everything that was available, because I don't even think it was at the point in time where they were saying, oh, it's not games, it's experiences. But there were games on Steam VR that it was compatibility was so tough at the beginning. So most of what I was playing was on Oculus. They had their own store, and yeah, it just I was trying to get my hands on everything that I could. But specific titles, honestly, it's not necessarily memorable. Like the titles, the names, the games, not necessarily memorable. It was how you feel inside of those games that was. Like I remember playing for 30 minutes, removing the headset and be like, "Oh no, it hasn't been 30 minutes. It's been 3 hours."
Yeah, so
But
real
yeah.
back to gaming as a child. Then the yeah, I wouldn't mind talking about that a little bit myself now. So like I would have grown up the same kind of gaming as you, but it was Sega for me. So the kids didn't really have Nintendo here. It was all Sega, so it was Mega Drive. So I think the first computer was an Amstrad 6128 or something like that. It had discs in it and a cartridge in the other side.
Yep.
And then the Mega Drive came out, and that I think it's called the Genesis over there. Is it the Sega Mega Drive?
Yeah.
Would have been
Yeah.
16
I'm
bit the
familiar with Mega
cartridges.
Drive,
Yeah,
but for us we called it Sega Genesis, yeah.
yeah. So that was the same, and then like you said, the PlayStation. Then I just stayed with PlayStation. I tried the very first Xbox that came out. I tried it. I think I got a PlayStation 2, and at one point I sold it. And then I said, well, I'm not going to buy another PlayStation 2. I'll buy an Xbox instead, and just instantly regretted it. And like look, now in fairness, I played some very good games on the first Xbox. I played Deus Ex on the Xbox. I'd never seen a game like
Yeah.
it, and I played the what was the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and like that
Yes,
that was
yes.
amazing. Like I mean, so I had some good gaming experiences on Xbox, but I bought some of the same games. I bought Enter the Matrix and I bought the second Metal Gear Solid. And I had both those games on the PlayStation 2. And I just didn't like it on the Xbox. I found the controller very awkward and stuff like that. But always stayed with PlayStation. But you just brought up VR there, and this is what I want to get into. So I got the MetaQuest 3 there a while ago, and like say not like 4 months ago or whatever, 5 months ago, and just played a few demos on it and whatever else, and thought, oh yeah, this is interesting, but I thought it'd be a little bit better, whatever. And then after Christmas, I said only a few weeks ago, I finally said, look, will you just put the whole thing together and get it working? So I connected the MetaQuest 3 to the gaming laptop and put on Half-Life Alyx, and it literally just blew me away. Like it's the most excited I've been about gaming in, I'd say, 20 years. It was like
Oh
the
yeah.
jump for me now. It was like the jump from the PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 2, or say maybe even the Mega Drive to the PlayStation 1. Like the jump in the technology and what the game could do. And I saw the videos for it on YouTube, so I knew what was coming. But then when I actually put the headset on and played it, I was just like, this is just incredible. Like it was really, it was the most significant advancement I've seen in gaming in about 20 years. And like you said, it the time would just go so fast, which is, I always think that reminds me of gaming when I was a kid, and you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do this, and telling your mother, shut up, leave you alone, like, and next thing you'd be 3 hours later. Do you know what I mean? The time would just go so
Yep.
fast, like, but yeah.
I am literally, and we could talk about that for so long. Literally, with everything you just said right now, I am jealous. I am truly, sincerely jealous because VR is such a rich gaming experience to anyone that really gives it the time. But the problem, and it's going to sound weird, and I don't know if this is the scientific explanation, but the dopamine hit is so hard with VR that once you start tackling similar experiences, it doesn't hit the same. Like, VR is one of those things. For example, I got the Oculus, but very shortly after I got the first PlayStation VR. And one of the experiences that I had tried fairly early on, because the PlayStation came with, well, it didn't came. You had to use the wand controllers, and eventually the touch controllers came to Oculus. I bought that so quick. But Batman Beyond was one of the first games in VR that I got to test having a controller that represents my hands. And I remember, you're being Batman and you're a detective and you're trying to solve the murder. And there's a table right in front of me. And I go to lean on the table because I've been standing for, 2 hours at this point. I go to lean on the table and I just fall flat on my face because there's no tables there. And that's when I got up, laughed so hard. And I was like, wow, okay, this is amazing. This is like nothing. This is the kind of thing that I used to dream of as a kid and think, no, that's never going to happen. But here it was where you are Batman. You are, moving your heads and your hands the way that you want. Nothing is holding you back. And to your point that you said earlier, that games kind of get confusing. I find VR, that's the beauty of it, is it's as simple as reaching out and grabbing something. You know what I mean? So it kind of eliminates a lot of, oh, wait, how did I do that again? What was the button? What was the combination?
Yeah.
Like, no. Like, I remember there are some times I play a game and literally I went into a menu once and I'm like, how did I get there? And then I you know what I mean?
Totally, yeah, totally.
You're trying to get back to that place and you can't.
You have to watch a YouTube video to show you. Yeah.
But yes, all that to say, VR is awesome. I have the PSVR 2 now. I have the Quest 3. The connected to the PC is the best experience. Unfortunately, they kind of have moved away from it. But to give you a few recommendations, Half-Life Alyx is indeed probably one of the top picks. But what I really enjoy with VR, and I don't know if you've tried to tackle VR in that sense, is anything you haven't done, try to do it. Like, even if there's this one game where you put a plank, and I did it. I took a plank, I put it on the floor, and you walk on a plank on like a super high level of an hotel, and it feels like you're outside.
Yeah.
Your heart like goes bumping. And yes, you're in a room, and if you jump down, you're not gonna fall to your death. But it's just the ability to experience things in a different way. That's what I like about VR. So if you're like, you like these types of games, and usually other types that you don't like, of all the places, if you really need to push your limits, push your boundaries, VR is the place to do it because the experience is going to be completely different.
Well, the first real game I played in VR it came with the Batman game. The Quest 3 came with Batman Arkham Knights or something, is it? I can't remember the name of it, but that new Batman game on the Quest 3. And I was blown away by that, but I was getting nauseated very fast by it, like physically nauseated, because it's running on the Quest 3, and maybe it's just not doing the frame rates. Maybe just I'm moving around too fast in the game. And often if you go to crouch or climb up a ladder or something, I just kind of just feel it, like,
Yeah, no, it's a thing. So it's very specific to VR. You have to build a tolerance. I never had that, but when I got VR the first time, it's probably the time in my life that I hosted the most. I would invite coworkers, friends, relatives, name it. I wanted everyone to try that tech, and I rapidly noticed that some people were like, "Oh, I'm not feeling good."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a thing. You have to build a tolerance for it.
But I did not feel that way in Half-Life Alyx. So I don't know whether it was because they designed the game better, because there was like a leap function with Half-Life Alyx. I would just skip to the next location with the with the function they have on the controller. And I thought maybe the frame rates felt like they were better. Do you know what I mean? Like it was giving me more solid frame rates. So I don't know, maybe that was the issue that was causing the
That could
nauseating
be.
with me. I don't know.
That could be. Frame rate can be one. So there are a couple of things that over time they've understood can cause the nauseous feeling that people get. Frame rate is one of them. Um, the so sometimes if you have like what they call smooth movement, where you like as if you're rolling forward, that gets people very nauseated. Sometimes they put vignettes, sometimes they don't. Anyways, there's a lot of different ways. Usually, most games in VR tutas they have settings where you can tweak them based off of your level of tolerance. But yes, eventually, if you can move past that, you can remove everything and you can play a normal game in VR, and it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, well, I bought it
But
as well, but I haven't tried it yet. I've bought Skyrim VR, and it looks like that's really come on as well. Like, it's been modded and that, so it looks like I haven't even played it yet now, but I've watched the people play it on YouTube, and it just looks amazing. This is why I bought it. I said, "This is
it's fun.
yeah, it does look good, all
It's
right."
fun. One thing, so not that I want to harp on this, but one of my favorite things to do in VR, and if you haven't done this, I would strongly recommend that you try it in Skyrim. It's not the place where it's the most fun, but still it's nice. Is just archery. Archery in VR is so fun. It's personally one of my favorite things. So Skyrim VR, it's fun with the shield and the sword, but do try the bow
Yeah, actually,
because
it's interesting what you said there a few minutes ago. You were saying when you try different experiences, and some of the like in the Batman game on the Quest 3, the first thing you do is start in an apartment, and like you know what it's like when you see it for the first time. You just go, I don't believe it. Like you're looking around, you're turning in the game. I don't believe it. And there was a newspaper on a chair, and I was like, there's no way. And I picked up the newspaper, and I was able to pick it up and turn it around and read the back of it, and I was like, this is just incredible. Like,
Yep.
and then I got so far into the game, and there's a chessboard there. It's just a piece in the background, and I was like, there's no way. Like, but you could pick up all the individual chess pieces, and I'm throwing them around and picking the chess piece up and throwing at other chess pieces. It's when you do something for the first time, it's just so incredible. But I just found with Half-Life Alyx, they did that, but they just did it so much more. It was just done so much better that it was just.
Yeah.
And the best thing for me is I've only a few hours into that game, so I have so much more of it to play yet. I'm really looking forward to it.
What you just said, I need to double down on. Throwing things in VR is also very satisfying, right? Because there are no impacts. So grabbing things and throwing things is, I find, a lot of fun. But there's something that you said with picking the chessboards that had me think. There is this game on VR that I played, and that was fairly early on when I had just received the touch controllers. And you're a bartender, and you're just making drinks. And I swear I had so much fun playing this game. Just having like fake patrons just coming up to the bar and asking for a drink and making and flipping the cup, the glasses, and at the end I was flipping everything behind my back because there are no like you don't break an actual glass, so you can really sort of try yourself to push, and it's such a minute little thing, and it shouldn't even be called a game, but I had so much fun, and so much of that is into VR. That's what makes it so amazing. You can try things in a way that has no boundaries, and oftentimes the design allows you to really let your mind free. I don't know if you ever heard about, I think the game is called Gore, and you're just in this huge Coliseum fighting like people with so many different weapons. It's one of the best games for a lot of people because it's just so violent. But, you get to experience a big, heavy sword, a staff, a shield, and anyways, VR is yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could get the excitement playing VR as much as I do talking about it because I got to feel all those, but they don't hit the same anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Because I feel like I've experienced it.
I don't think. I think VR gaming and console gaming or PC gaming, I think they're two separate things, to be honest with you. So I
Yeah.
don't think VR is the like the future of gaming, like VR will take over regular gaming. I think there's always going to be a place for the other style of gaming. I think they're two kind of separate things. You mightn't always want to play VR. You might just want to play something a bit more simple. Do you know?
Absolutely. Well, yes, because that's another great point. You know, like we said earlier, you put the headset for 30 minutes and then you realize it's been 3 hours. But at the same time, and that's something that I realized with VR, it can get exhausting because it's so like stimulating. Sometimes you just want to sit, lean back, and have a screen. You know, it's 2D, it's flat, and just control a character. I agree. You are on the money. You are so correct, so right with this. I 100%.
Well, I think the next generation will be very exciting. Like you think now, say the Quest 3, like when the next Quest comes out, or the next one comes out, it becomes more accessible. See, the problem with it is it's kind of stuck at the minute. The price needs to come down because the game developers, there's no incentive for game developers to make games for it because there's not that many people out there with the setup to play the games. And then like I like Half-Life Alyx, but that's not going to be for everyone. So then how many copies of this game are you going to sell? The market's it's just not there yet, kind of. That's what it feels like anyway.
There's a rumor, and I hope this is not the case, but there's a rumor that Meta are apparently stepping away from standalone VR and VR in general, and they're going to focus more on augmented reality, which is, you know, gaming can still happen, but it's a different type of gaming, which is also, I don't know if you tried it on the Quest 3 where you have like the aliens breaking your walls.
Yeah, yeah.
It's cool, but it's a different type of gaming. Yeah, I don't know. I see your point, and I like VR, but it's not everything. There's definitely room for the two to coexist, but there's also the future of what's coming next, and AR could be one of them. You know, it's hard to see what.
Yeah, I don't know
it's
though.
gonna be.
With the AR, you'd need this. You'd need the physical space at that stage. Then,
Yeah,
and like a lot of people aren't
yeah.
going to have that. You know what I mean? Well,
That's always been my challenge.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. What have you seen anything about the Valve headset?
I follow. I don't know if you know about someone called the Fox. He's a very intelligent individual that makes videos on YouTube, and I watch his stuff. And I also follow him on Twitter. He's like one of the very, very few people that I actually click on Twitter for. And recently he made a post about rumors coming out about the deck card. I know nothing of it, if I'm being perfectly honest, but I feel like that's a headset I would buy just because I did try. What was the name? Was it just Valve VR? And I wanted to buy it at the time. It was so expensive, and they just didn't sell to Canadians. And I ended up paying someone in Montreal to go to their house and try it. And I remember trying the knuckles, the headset, the audio. I was like, what? So whenever Valve comes out with a new headset, the likeliness of me not buying it is extremely slim. Because I just feel like I gotta have the full Valve experience. However, have you seen the big screen Beyond too?
Wait, what's that name's really familiar? What's that?
Big Screen is an app on VR where you can like sit with people in a big theater and watch movies.
Right,
and
okay.
But that company has made a headset VR, which is like those very, very super small.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So they just announced their second model, and it's tempting. It's tempting because the thing with VR is it's heavy, it's exhausting. So I feel like if you can slim down the whole experience, if you can make it feel lighter, how much better would it be? But it's a big ask, a big investment to try that and potentially not, because I have VR, but honestly, if I have played 30 minutes of VR in the last 6 months, I probably don't even think I have, because I experienced it so much at some point that I kind of burned myself out of it. So yeah, I'm trying to find that thing that will get me back into it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. What is it?
The future of it will be interesting. I mean, the graphics are incredible on Half-Life Alyx, but they could be better again, you know what I mean? When the next generation comes out, I mean, See, this was the thing of with the PlayStation. This is why I got into PC gaming, because the jumps weren't that big anymore. Like the jumps between 1 and 2, PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2, and 2 and 3, the jumps were pretty big, like in what the console could do, the graphics and everything. And for me, then the jump between 3 and 4, it just did, it was big, but it didn't seem as big as the previous generations. And then between 4 and 5, I didn't buy 5 because the jump just didn't look, I was like, this is just not worth it anymore. And PlayStation 5, it didn't seem to have a lot of, like for me, for the gaming that I like, the games titles didn't really seem to be coming out. And I was like, I think I'm going to cash in my chips here now, and I think I'm going to get into PC gaming. It just seems to be more in it for me now. And I'd always had the idea in my head that I would get the VR set up at some point then going forward from there. So that's kind of how I ended up down this road.
Yeah, it's definitely a great way to inject a bit of
Money,
feeling new, feeling fresh, and say what?
a bit of money.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. It's an expensive hobby. That is definitely the case. But you know what you said had me think, because gaming is a thing that evolved to not be as appealing as it once was, which is one of the reasons why I turned to gaming hardware. I find lately it feels like it's been shifting back a little bit, so I'm excited about that. But one thing, and I don't know if you've been doing a whole lot of it, but indie gaming probably carried gaming for me for quite a few years because in I like you grew up as I have in a time where you would play a game and you would see like a CG animation and it felt like a reward. You were
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, nice. I get to see this nice animation." And then you watch and you're amazed at how beautiful that it is. For the most part nowadays, either games don't use CG, or when they do, they make it so seamless that you don't necessarily feel the transition. That's how far we've gone in terms of graphics, right? So it feels like there's only so much that they can do to push it forward. And then when you think of VR, it's one way, but it's very like, it taxes your hardware a lot. And that's why I find that at least if I can turn to indie where you have developers, young developers that are have not grown in the same kind of walls and limitations, they come up with games that feels fresh and interesting and unique and have takes on certain things that you feel is should be a certain way just because that's how they've been for the last 10 years. And here you have this developer that has never coded in that way and completely breaks the mold and breaks the expectations. And that's what I like with indie game. I don't know if you do a whole lot of it, but for me, it's been a driving force in my gaming for the longest time.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because if you look at what Bethesda did, like they kind of broke the mold, but now it's 15 years later or whatever it is, more even, and they're just stuck in a rut now. They're trying to recreate the same magic by using the same methods, but sure, it's
Yep.
the market's moved on now. Everyone's moved on in their expectations and what they want, and they're just kind of like this big trundling behemoth now that just it's not really changing with it. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, there
Absolutely.
would be kids out there with like, well, why don't we try this and why don't we try that and kind of reinvent it again? Like, come up with different concepts. Yeah, sure. Thingy did. I mean, the same thing happened to Cyberpunk 2077. Like when that first came out, like it just wasn't it was just using like an old style of game, and look, forget about all the other problems they had with it, but the actual style of game and like some of the leveling up and stuff like that in it, it was just using methods from donkeys years ago, whereas now it's a good, well, I think it's a good game now anyway, but they had to
Oh yeah, yeah,
overhaul
for
it.
sure.
Like,
Yeah, they vastly improved it. It's one of the better success story of taking something that people were not happy with and transforming it into something that is positive that I can think of in recent years. That and No Man's Sky, is another game that was wildly improved since the release. But yes, glad that they have because it's a very rich experience and universe that they built with Cyberpunk.
would you be looking at, they've made a Terminator 2 game, would you be looking at that then? It's a side scroller, is it? Or
I saw some footage pass by. I thought it looked so cool because to me at least, they really recreated the feel of the movie from what little I've seen. So yeah, it has captured my interest. And I don't know if you played RoboCop, the first person shooter game.
I've seen the videos off it. I haven't played it though.
I have devoured that game. I RoboCop Rogue City. Yeah, I it's not too often that I get to sit down and just like pile on a game and finish it from beginning to end without playing other things on the side. But I did with RoboCop, and I don't know, maybe there was a part nostalgia, part that it was just a fun game, part that it was just a single player with a story. No, like throw me into a PvP match or PvPvE match or go online. No, I just want a game that I can spend 20 to 30 hours, go through the stages, finish it. So if Terminator is the same, um, it's probably guaranteed that I'm gonna grab it. One, because there's a nostalgia hit, there's a reference to my childhood, and it's fun to see like the take of these games in modern times. Because the games that we had back then when those movies were relevant were nothing alike what is available today. So I like to dabble in these experiences.
Yeah, that Amstrad computer we had, the first computer we had at home, the RoboCop 2 was one of the games for it. It was on a cartridge. Now, I mean, you can go and look at this on YouTube. Look up RoboCop 2 Amstrad. It has literally nothing to do with RoboCop. Like, you are RoboCop, but you're just jumping over things and a ball might come at you or something. Like, stupid.
I need to look this up. Because I had a Commodore 64 128, and I every time I see Commodore, I also see Amstrad. That's how I'm familiar with the name, but I don't know if it's the same thing, the same system. Anyways, I'll
No,
look it up at some point.
they would be different. But I think what would happen was the games developers, they would get the IP for the films, but you're obviously like the game. I mean, the games were rubbish. Like they had nothing to do with the films really. But me
Yeah.
and my brother used to be rolling around laughing because they would make the cover of the game, the box that the game came in would just look amazing, and then you turn it on and you go, oh right, you know what I mean?
It was a different time. It felt like the artist was commissioned to do something for the cover with no knowledge of what the game. But then the developer was like describing the game with its inspiration, but it was dots, pixels on a still color background. Yeah, like a cover that is so funny to me. Are you familiar with Mega Man?
I know of it.
Okay, so Mega Man, right? Very iconic, like Sonic, like Mario, very iconic character for gaming in general. The cover of Mega, the cover of Mega Man 1 on the Nintendo is this guy wearing a blue suit, holding a gun, and it's not the character. The character is a robot, with like a buster
Yeah.
arm. But yeah, it's just that was a thing back then. The covers and the games were not always representative of one another.
I'm always holding out for a Predator game. It's just when everyone and the
Ooh,
game whenever they get the IP for it, they just wreck it. It's just never a good. The best. There was Aliens versus Predator on the PC and around 96, 97, and so like
yep.
when I got this gaming laptop, I actually went and bought it because just for the nostalgia, playing it again. But even with the nostalgia, it's still one of the best Alien Predator games that was ever made. It's just a brilliant game, like. But I haven't seen anything really. I'd love to have a real Predator game, like.
That would be awesome. Because to your point, I remember Alien versus Predator. It made such a noise, such a buzz, and there were also arcade machines. But Alien has had a few good games. Predator, I can't really. I guess there was. I think if I recall, there was. But to me, it's just not in the same category. But there was a game where it's that Formula 4. It's online, and it's four players that work together against one. So it's a 4v1. Anyways, I'm pretty sure there was a Predator game with that, which you were either four like guys in the jungle with guns, or you were the versus the one Predator, and it was like whoever wins between the two. And it was fun. I remember playing the demo, but it's a different type of game. Like an experience, a single player rich experience with Predator. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
And actually, just
I don't think that.
before I forget, then just with the so we were talking about VR there, and obviously talking about controllers before that. So where do you see the controllers for VR going? Do you think maybe a haptic feedback glove with some buttons on it, or what would you think for that?
I it's hard to tell because the knuckles from Valve were amazing because you can track your fingers, you know. But to some extent, it kind of it kind of did not hit as well for me, at least as the Oculus controllers, because at the end of the day, there's like this balance of, are you going for realism or are you going for playing a game? And this is where I wonder how challenging it is for companies trying to make VR, because there's this very fine balance of, okay, you can use your hands, like for example, the Oculus now uses the hand tracking a whole lot, and hand tracking is nice, but you got to have your buttons. So I don't know. I don't know what it's gonna be. I VR is one of those things where I'm like, you know what? Have at it. When you have a product, present it to me, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, you might see. I mean, with Valve making the what's it called Steam Deckard, is it?
The Deckard, yeah.
Yeah, the Deckard, yeah. Like, it might end up like, say, maybe there's, look, I don't know, whatever how many developers are at the minute. We'll just say, look, there's 8 developers or 10 developers of VR headsets. It might end up like the consoles in the end, where it just gets whittled down to 2, kind of like Microsoft and Sony, and then they'll kind of start to dominate the market, and the thing might start to take off a bit more then, because there'll just be the games developers will have a market then. Do you know what I mean? Because people will either have kind of one or the other. Like, I know it's all PC, so they can play on all the things anyway, but it's all a bit fractured at the minute.
But Meta kind of tried to do this, but I feel like the adoption rate is just, it hasn't. The problem with VR, and Meta has experienced that with the Quest 2, is they have managed to sell a lot. So adoption rate eventually got good. The problem is not adoption rate at this point. It is, how do you keep players onto the platform? And that's where they're struggling. And I get it, because VR, unlike playing on your cell phone, playing on your PC, playing on a console, there is more friction point for VR. You have to have your headset plugged in. You have to have batteries in your controllers. I know it sounds like a minute thing, but it might have happened where people sat their headset, forgot to plug it, went to be like, oh, you know what? Let me play, grab it, put it, and be like, oh, no battery. I'll just play some other time. And that could have been an opportunity for that person to tackle into the store, be like, oh, you know what? Let me buy that game. And then they make a profit. They have to make a profit. So there are so many friction points, because then you put on the VR headset and you're disconnected from the world to some extent. So what happens when, oh, well, I need to make dinner. Oh, my wife wants to watch a show. Oh, the kids are running around. Like, there are so many friction points with VR that I think what you're saying has happened. It just did not come out successful. That's what I think. Because the Rift, is not really that big. Yes, you have different makers of headsets, but really when you think of platforms, you have 3. You have PC VR, standalone VR, and PlayStation VR. These are the only 3 platforms, and they already like move from one to the other because developers are not making enough money. They're not selling enough software. So they have to, jump on the other platforms back and forth. Meta injected so much money into like buying games, buying developers, buying studios. It just hasn't taken off. Not the way that they need to.
Yeah, you'd wonder what their game sales are. See, the head for me, what happened was the headset was kind of, it looked like it was good enough, and then it was at a price point that I was willing to pay. I think I paid about €550 for it. But it's still it's not like it's expensive though for the average person. Like, if I just have money to spend on that kind of a thing, like, whereas like the average person mightn't, like, or like if you're a kid growing up, like you're gonna have to have the PC to play it, otherwise you're restricted to just the games on the Quest. I mean, it's way too inexpensive setup for a normal kid unless they're big into it. That it really shrinks the size of the market, I suppose, the amount of money you need, and they're coming in at the best headset at the cheapest price. Like, the
Well, yeah, I think that would help, but that's why I'm saying I think it already happened. The Quest 2, you could get a Quest 2 at some point for like 299 Canadian. I don't know how much it was where you are, but it really wasn't that expensive when you think about it. But 299, and I'm pretty sure Meta was losing money at that time, at that point in time, but they were banking on, well, it's okay because the product is good, the quality of the product is good. Now, what we have to make sure is that once they buy it, they want to stay in it and they want to buy software. And I just feel like, of course, it was happening, but it wasn't happening enough. And that's why apparently the rumors that they're, stepping away from VR, it seems like they're coming at a point where they're like, you know what, we have to cut our losses. Thankfully, I don't think VR is going to go away because PC is more open source, so to speak. So we'll still have companies, smaller ones, smaller developers that believe in VR, and it has found a strong following. So I don't think it's going away,
yeah,
but I think it's.
I certainly didn't help the cause anyway because I literally just bought it as a monitor, as a VR monitor to run on the PC. I didn't. I was like, look, the screen resolution looks great, the lenses, everything looks great on it. So that will do me now for my headset for my PC VR gaming. I can't see me using the other functions on it that much at all, really.
And I get it, and to be fair, I mean, I have the Quest 3 now. I bought it like literally 2 weeks ago. I had bought it at launch. I sent it back, and I just rebought it, and I haven't played it with yet. But I know that the only gaming I have any intentions of doing is PC VR. For me, I need to have like the richer experience, and indeed, the Quest 3 is a great price point. It just does what it needs to do, and that's okay with me. I don't need more than that for what little I'll make of it. Yeah.
The headset you talked about a minute beyond big screen, or sorry, what was it called?
It is big screen. The company I believe is Beyond
But
or
that's
Big
coming
Screen.
in
I'm
at
not sure.
about
Anyways,
that's about €1,200 or something, I think.
well, here's the thing. They are all part of the PC VR ecosystem, which is not so much standalone like it is with the Quest, or I think HTC had a couple of iterations of standalone VR as well. So did Pico, the company ByteDance, the company that makes TikTok. Anyways, all that to say, you buy the headset, the big screen Beyond 2 headset, you still need the controllers, you still need the lighthouses. So that 1200 something that you spend on the headset, you still have to invest about double that just to get the equipment.
Yeah.
So, and then you don't have games. And then you're thinking, oh, wait, Valve apparently is about to announce a Deckard soon. Maybe I should wait. Because they're all piggybacking off of Valve's system right now. No, actually, it was HTC and Valve. The whole Lighthouse system, which my very first Oculus had that system. And look, I'll be honest, it was way better than Inside Out tracking. Because I remember it was such a setup. I went into my room, each corner of my rooms, I had 3 cameras that I installed in each corners. And then it made for some crazy experiences. Like I remember this one time I was playing this army kind of game, like a shooter, and I could hear bullets grazing past my head, and I just went down behind cover, and like with my heart racing, I was like, dude, I'm in my room getting shot at. This is crazy. This is awesome. So yeah, all that to say, the big screen Beyond looks awesome, but it's an expensive cost, and knowing that the Deckard rumors are coming up more and more, I feel like I want to wait to see what Valve has to bring, because I feel like what Valve will provide is going to be a pack where you have the headset. Are they doing inside out tracking? Are they moving away from lighthouses, or are they supplying the new version of Lighthouse? We don't know. So I'll just wait for that and see what happens.
When you talk about those experiences with the bullets flying and stuff like that, when I was playing the Half-Life Alyx, I experienced that a little bit, but like one of my favorite games genres, like I said earlier, would be the Resident Evil games, the horror games. And I was just thinking, God, like if they made a really good Resident Evil game or something similar, like The Last of Us or something for VR, like it would just be terrifying. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh,
If they did a really good
there's
job
a
of it,
few.
like, you know.
There's a few.
Is there or not? I wouldn't
I
be aware
so
yet.
There are. I can confirm. I don't like horror games. I don't like horror movies. It's actually it's not that I don't like them. I can't fathom the scare. But for some reason, VR horror, no problem. I will. I will. I don't know if it's something about being in control in front of the menace, but I played Resident Evil 7 in VR. Although these were only on the PSVR 1, I played Resident Evil 8 in VR.
And
You have
what was that
Resident.
like then? Because Resident Evil 7 is, I've played all the Resident Evils, and that was the hardest game in the series. For me anyway, that Resident Evil 7 was a very hard game, but it was brilliant.
It was intense. It
Yeah.
was intense, but you kind of build up a tolerance to, because especially one of the most memorable fights in VR is, you know, when you fight, I believe it's the dad, and he tries to run you over with a car, and
Yeah.
then like everything caught on fire. Man, that fight when he's like going after you with the chainsaw, I got cut in half so many times.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and, and the first time you're like running away, and it's like, oh my god, he's gonna kill me, and then he does, and then it's like, okay, and then he does again, and then you build a tolerance to it, but it was really intense. It was really intense. It was fun, and yeah, VR is great. Horror is great in VR. Like if you can detach yourself from the fact that you're not dying for real, it's actually pretty cool. There's a game on PSVR which is probably one of my best VR experiences. It's, I don't know if you know the series Until Dawn.
I
Are
know,
you
again,
familiar
I
with?
know of it. I know what it's about. I haven't played it though.
So it's an horror kind of like storytelling, make your own decisions kind of game. And it's a very popular series for in PlayStation, especially in Japan. So they took the universe of Until Dawn and they did an on-rail shooter. That was like that was the first game I would show everyone that would come to my house. And it's just so fun. Like you have jump scares and VR horror for some reason I love. Regular horror not so much, but I got scared so much in that game. Like I screamed.
No, it sounds good. I'll definitely be giving. I've that Resident Evil 8. I found it a lot easier than 7. I was I was a little bit let down. Like that they just. I think 7 was too hard for people, so then they just dialed it way down, and it was just like you were just getting through boss fights like they were nothing. I was just like, nah. But I did enjoy Resident Evil 8. I played it twice, and I would play it again. Like,
Yeah, I think now that I think about it, these might be exclusive to PSVR and PSVR 2, but you do have Resident Evil 4. It's not the remake graphics, but you do have Resident Evil 4 on the Quest, which is it's a standalone game, mind you. It's fun. It's nice. It's interesting to re-experience such an iconic title in VR, but it's not as rich as some of the other experiences that we just talked about, like Resident Evil 7 or 8.
have you played flight simulators at all?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. That was another thing that there was one in particular when you're in that kind of seat and it's open, like you're not in an enclosed space, and you have like little copters and you're flying. It was so scary, but it was so cool. Like just lifting off and you're like, oh my god. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did play fly, games where you fly. I It's very simple. Anything I could get my hands on that felt like, oh, I'm experiencing this for the first time in VR, I would just get. I would, because I knew that it was not going to be the same as anything else I've ever tried. And indeed, it was. It was just a different experience. I loved it. Whether you're doing what's the kayak, you're kayaking, you're so many different experiences that I'm not thinking of from the top of my head, but I tried so many different ones because it was just so cool.
Have you tried the DCS flight simulator then?
I There's one. So you mean like a space?
No, it's for the PC, so it's either DSC or DCS, but it's combat fighter planes that are made exactly like they are in real life, only it's in VR. It's actually
Oh,
freeware. You can just get it, and then like they'll give you so many free options, and then they'll want you to like buy a plane. But it looks incredible. I bought it, and then they said, look, you got to get the like the control stick and the throttle to play with it, because they said once you have the headset on,
yep,
obviously you can't see your keyboard. So they said that's the
indeed.
way to go with that. But I've seen YouTube videos of actual fighter pilots who've played it, and they have their whole setup for it, and they said it's incredible. Like it's as close as you're going to get to the real thing. Like
That's awesome. No, I have not played that specific title. I have played like dogfighting games, but not specifically that one. And the one I played was more like space driven. But to your point, table tennis. There's this game called 11 Table Tennis. I swear, ever since, and I played a lot of 11 Table Tennis. And then at some point, I came in front of a table tennis, and I was terrible as a teenager. And all of a sudden here I was spinning the ball, like actually being good at it. And that's kind of in correlation to what you just said with the fighter pilot. Like that's the beauty of VR too. Like it literally can train you into doing something better in the real world, which is crazy to think. And yet it can.
well,
It's pretty awesome.
I think there'll be huge applications for that in the future in terms of education, training. I think working with people with disability, it's going to give them opportunities to see things and hear things that they would normally never be able to do. I think there is, like, obviously we're just talking about gaming, so we've gone for the lowest denominator, but I think there's other massive applications for this technology in the future, you know?
Oh yeah. There already are. There was um not a survey, but not a test. I'm sorry, I can't think of the word. My French brain. That was conducted, research that was conducted probably 4 or 5 years ago, where they took 100 new potential students to become doctors, and for 2 hours they gave literature, like things to read about a procedure that they would attempt, and they took another 100 students and did exactly the same. Like they gave the same data, same information, but rather than reading the information, they were in a VR space just learning what they're learning, with more of a physical notion to it. And 100% of the students that did the VR did better than the ones that were reading.
Yeah, I would 100% believe it. I think people would just learn much more naturally in that way. Like,
Exactly. And so we're already seeing it, and apparently the car industry, it's very present, the medical field. VR is definitely, it's already in place. We just don't really know about it, but there's a lot of applications, and it's only going to go from here. So yes, that's why I think when we think of like Meta, that apparently is stepping away from VR and stepping into AR, I think that's also one of the reasons why. It's easier. The glasses that they announced, Orion, it's easier to see a value in it if you can be in your home and have AR augmented whatever, like a screen, or like the applications do feel that it's going to reach out to more people because you can be partly connected to the real world and partly connected to the virtual world, and that just it augments your reality rather than trying to take you away from reality, which seems to be too much of an ask for people in general, I think.
yeah, so we kind of went fairly off track from where we started at the beginning of it. So, like, would you like to say anything else or promote yourself in any way or anything else? And I'd say we'll wrap it up if anyone's even still watching now at this stage.
I mean, thank you for having me. You know what, at the end of the day, it's the views, the performance, that's all great, but really I think what was fun for me is just this experience. It's talking, it's having that human connection, and talking about the things that we experience different or the same or learn from each other. So I was really happy to have this conversation with you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And for me, I mean, if they want to see me, I'm Klef. I'm at Game Tech Talk, and that's it. It's all happening there.
Yeah, I think YouTube is changing, to be honest with you. I think people are looking for more natural conversations now, just normal people, not people trying to make out they have this big exciting lifestyle and whatever else they're trying to promote. I think that side of YouTube is starting to die down now, and I think people are just looking for genuine other people, you know what I mean? And the YouTubers that I follow and that I'm interested in and that I'd like to interview, they're all like that. I mean, this cheap VR or RV living. This guy lives in tiny homes and stuff like that. There's frugal off-grid living. What's it? Big Herc 90210 or something like that. There's like they're just you can tell from talking to them they're just real people. Do you know what I mean? That just decided to do YouTube.
Absolutely.
No, it's very interesting. Like I'm hoping to interview more people. That's where I hope to go with it. But as a hobby, like
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to see what you put out, and I'm happy to count myself as one of the people that you have interviewed and that you will have interviewed in the future, because I'm sure there will be many more, and I wish that for you. And I'm excited to tune in and see what it's all about. And again, I'm appreciative of this opportunity to sit down and talk with you. Thank you very much.
thanks, Klef. You're a gentleman. Okay.
All right. You have a
Okay.
good one.
Talk to you.